Good evening, Superintendent, Board Directors, community staff. David Montes de Oca, Quality Community Schools Development. One of the things that I've had the pleasure of doing in the vast learning curve that's ensued in the few months that I've been in transition is taking up enrollment projections, enrollment counts, which is fascinating, and I look forward to contributing the best of my energy to that work. And with that, we've also, I've had the pleasure of inheriting the support of Anika Hardy, who authored this presentation, but also is the person who spends a significant amount of hours collecting on the first day, the third day, the 10th day, the 15th day, and subsequently the 20th day, the counts of the students that are in each of our classrooms. That's literally, it's referred to as the warm body count, is literally a count of each individual student. And with that, we have some brief presentation to share with you, some of the highlights. I wanted to appreciate and acknowledge the continued push that Director Gallo makes around technology. We had the opportunity this year to introduce an online approach to what has been for years a paper-driven and fairly error-ridden process of collecting this information from schools. And this year we introduced an online, almost free online approach to having schools enter that data, and we receive it on our end in a much more efficient way. And with that, we hope to continue to grow in that effort and want to continue to honor the work around technology and advancing that. So with that, this is just some highlights, and I'll tell you what's here, and then I'll share a few things that's actually not contained in this presentation. So this shares the difference between the projections, which was a process that occurs where we project the number of students that we expect to receive in our schools, and the actual students that we have. This count is a slightly adjusted count from the 20th day, where we basically cleaned the data by contacting schools, verifying information, and going through our ARIES system. A comparison between our projections and our actual students is that we projected 20,220 elementary students, and we actually have 206 more than our projection with 20,426. And as you sort of move on down the line, you can see that as of this count, we have 64 more middle school students than we projected, and 53 fewer high school students than we had projected. Another view of this gives you the difference between what was the difference between how we projected last year and the actual counts and how we projected this year in the actual counts. So last year, we came in 139 students fewer than we projected, and this year we came in 206 students more. Last year, we came in 192 students fewer in middle school, and this year we came in 64 students more. Last year, we came in 129 students more than we projected, and 53 students this year less than we projected. The thing to note about projections, of course, is it's our set of assumptions based on a variety of data that we believe tells us what we can expect, and then how close we get is reflected here. I've been particularly impressed by the science that goes into something that can get within a couple hundred students, if not a few dozen students, when you're talking about numbers that are in the thousands. So there's clearly some strong capacity that's been held by this organization to make these predictions when we're looking at it from large grade levels. The total change is that last year on the 20th day count, we were 201 students fewer. And here on the 20th day count, we are 217 students greater in our projections. Quite frankly, that data at the bottom that says the difference being 201 at one point and this year 217, that wouldn't necessarily suggest we have any more students. It just simply means we have 217 more than we projected. But if you look up and you actually count the actual number of students, this time last year, we had 36,822 students in our schools. This time this year, we have 37,067 students, which is a total of 245 more students in our schools this year as compared with last year, which means our enrollment is going up instead of down. The piece that I wanted and this last graph just gives you a difference between the green line shows this year we're above our projection, last year with the yellow line we're below the projection. So I just want to give one last nuance. The last nuance is here on this slide, which shows the grade levels. So that 245 student increase is not actually an increase that's felt across the board. It's fairly specific. And this isn't reflected here, so I'll just have to state this to you because it's math that I did on paper. The high schools are actually 278 students fewer than last year. The middle school is 2 students fewer than last year, but about the same. We have 525 more elementary school students this year than we did last year. And arguably, I think our academic performance data suggests that there's a lot of attraction to what's happening in our elementary schools, and it certainly bears out in this data. So when we ask ourselves whether or not improving the academic performance of our schools will improve the number of students choosing our schools, I think the data tells us that that's absolutely what occurs. And I'd be happy to answer questions.